There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a room when an unspoken truth is finally dragged into the blinding light. For years, the public has watched a slow, agonizing transformation take place on the global stage. What began as a noble, untouchable legacy was slowly hollowed out, reduced to a tightly controlled backdrop for luxury clothing and awkwardly manufactured photo opportunities. The visual was subtle but deeply humiliating. A former television actress, dressed in designer shorts marching confidently ahead of decorated combat veterans, it was a jarring image, a staggering display of moral contradiction that signaled the exact moment. A profound charitable endeavor was hijacked by pure commercial desperation. But the true, fatal blow to this illusion did not come from a tabloid expose or a formal royal decree. It came in the form of a casual, devastatingly simple sentence delivered by a former rugby player on a podcast. I knew him when he was fun. This is the story of how Prince Harry lost his final, untouchable shield. In the following narrative, we will unpack a meticulously quiet, corporate, and royal execution. We will explore how staggering arrogance and a profound lack of media experience alienated the most powerful streaming platforms on Earth. More importantly, we will reveal the devastating proxy war currently being waged between massive media conglomerates, a war where the British royal family is subtly elevating a new, title-less champion to completely erase the Sussex brand. By the end of this analysis, you will understand that what looks like a simple television rivalry is actually a meticulously engineered replacement strategy, one that threatens to sever Prince Harry from the Invictus Games forever. To understand the sheer magnitude of this fall from grace, we must first return to the era before the collapse. There was a time when Prince Harry was the undisputed golden child of royal public relations. He was the lovable rogue, the deeply human prince who had walked behind his mother's coffin and earned the unshakable, fiercely protective grace of the British public. When he launched the Invictus Games in 2014, it was nothing short of a masterpiece. It was the perfect marriage of a man and a mission. Harry was a veteran who had served on the front lines in Afghanistan. He spoke the blunt, honest language of the soldiers. He inherently understood the dark, isolating psychological toll of combat and the grueling journey of physical recovery. In those early years, Invictus was not a brand activation or a networking opportunity. It was a profound emotional anchor for a young man desperate for purpose. He was universally respected. He held a level of global goodwill that crisis management firms simply cannot buy. It was his ultimate armor, a legacy so pure it protected him from every minor scandal and public misstep. But legacy is a fragile, unforgiving thing when it is starved of authenticity and fed only by desperate commercial ambition. When the Duke and Duchess of Sussex walked away from the royal institution, they did not just leave a family. They walked into a ruthless, unforgiving corporate arena, completely unarmed, blinded by the illusion of their own immense power. When they signed their monolithic deal with Netflix, they were arguably the most famous couple on the planet. They possessed the kind of unprecedented cultural leverage that could command absolute creative control, premium locations, and top-tier directing talent. But power without strategy is just expensive noise. Industry insiders watched in quiet disbelief as a staggering level of inexperience began to dismantle their media empire from the inside out. There's a fascinating tragic irony in their television failures. When they signed their media deals, they were entirely inexperienced in the mechanics of producing compelling, sustainable television at the highest level. Yet they possessed a wealth of untapped knowledge right at their fingertips. A seasoned television professional, someone who had spent decades on the sets of massive hit broadcast shows, could have offered invaluable grounded advice on how to build a production slate from the ground up. But that would have required humility. It would have required an ability to listen to voices outside their immediate echo chamber. Instead, driven by the absolute conviction that they knew best, they rejected conventional wisdom. They ignored the fundamental rule of audience building. A seasoned media veteran would have advised a gradual introduction, perhaps launching a modest lifestyle brand to warm the public to their new reality, easing viewers into their independent narrative. Instead, driven by a desperate need to control the narrative and monetize their immediate sense of victimhood, they detonated the nuclear option. They rushed straight into the Oprah Winfrey interview and their own highly produced, grievance-filled documentary series. It was a tactical disaster that shattered their mystique, exhausted the public, and left them with nowhere to go but down. The brutal commercial consequences of that impatience are only now coming to light. The streaming giant Netflix is reportedly stunned by the absolute hollow nature of their recent offerings. The documentary series Heart of Invictus, a project that should have been the emotional, bulletproof cornerstone of their new empire, failed to capture a wide audience or generate the expected revenue. It revealed a deeply uncomfortable truth. The public was tuning in for the royal warfare, the gossip and the grievances, not the charitable endeavors, but the true, bottomless depth of their disconnect was exposed during the production of their upcoming series centered around the elite world of polo. Billed as an exclusive look into a high society sport, network bosses were reportedly left in a state of absolute shock when they realized that Prince Harry, the executive producer and the entire marquee draw of the show, virtually refused to feature in it. According to industry whispers, he operated under the profound delusion that his name in the credits and a few fleeting cameo appearances would be enough to guarantee a massive commercial hit. It was a staggering display of entitlement. It showed a man who believed his mere existence was a highly paid commodity, entirely disconnected from the reality of hard work, creative heavy lifting, and the actual demands of television production. And it is exactly in this vast vacuum of authenticity that the true lethal threat emerged. While the Sussexes isolated themselves in a California mansion, desperately trying to manufacture relevance through press releases and orchestrated appearances, the royal family did not retaliate with angry statements. They retaliated with Mike Tyndall. Tyndall is everything Prince Harry used to be, but completely stripped of the paralyzing aristocratic neuroses and the endless demands for public sympathy. He is a former English rugby captain, a man from Yorkshire who speaks plainly, laughs loudly, and naturally commands the respect of any room he enters. Married to the king's niece, Zara Phillips Tyndall occupies a fascinating, highly strategic space. He is fiercely loyal to the crown, incredibly close to Prince William, yet entirely unburdened by an official royal title. He is relatable, he is grounded, and most dangerously for Harry, he is effortlessly, brutally authentic. When Tyndall joked on a podcast that he knew Harry when he was fun, it was not just a passing comment. It was a precision strike that validated what the entire world was already thinking. The subtle social media signals and quiet corporate maneuvers currently surrounding Tyndall carry devastating, deeper meaning. Tyndall is actively spearheading a project to revitalize the historic Richmond Rugby Club in West London, a gritty, beloved local venue famously associated with the early days of the Rolling Stones. But this is not just a quaint, local charity drive. It is rapidly developing into a major documentary series. And the platform reportedly backing it is not Netflix, but their direct, deep-pocketed rival, Amazon Prime. This is where the narrative shifts from a simple family estrangement into a lethal, perfectly executed corporate and public relations checkmate. The royal family has already shown a quiet, deliberate distancing from Netflix, fully aware of the toxic association it carries. Now they are subtly blessing Amazon Prime by allowing a beloved, unofficial member of the inner circle to produce a sports documentary that genuinely connects with the working class. But the truly devastating blow, the one that threatens to erase Prince Harry's final remaining achievement, is happening right now behind the closed doors of Invictus itself. The board of the Invictus Games is watching Mike Tyndall very closely. They are watching a rugged, universally liked former athlete who perfectly embodies the grit, sweat, and genuine ego-free camaraderie of competitive sports. They are comparing that authentic, unforced sporting connection to the current reality of Invictus, an event that increasingly feels like a tightly controlled, highly sanitized photo opportunity for a struggling American lifestyle brand. Whispers are growing intensely louder that Invictus needs a desperate revitalization, a profound return to its rugged, veteran-focused roots, completely away from the glittering, heavily guarded optics of its current patrons. With Prince William and Princess Catherine reportedly ready to throw their immense, unshakable global weight behind Tyndall's upcoming rugby project, a silent, terrifying question is echoing through the halls of the Invictus Foundation, a question that Prince Harry, completely cut off and commercially weakened, may be utterly powerless to stop. The chilling reality for Prince Harry is that the Invictus Games represented the final unburned bridge to his former self. It was the last remaining space where he was not just a controversial celebrity, but a universally respected figure of authority and compassion. To lose that, or even to share that space with a rival, is not merely a public relations setback. It is an existential crisis. The psychological weight of this potential replacement cannot be overstated. If Mike Tyndall, a man without a royal title, without a massive PR machine, and without a grievance narrative, can effortlessly capture the hearts of the veteran and sporting communities simply by being himself, it violently shatters the illusion that Harry and Meghan have spent 4 years trying to build. It proves that the public does not require a highly curated, heavily filtered version of royalty. They crave the exact thing the Sussexes' abandoned duty community and uncomplaining hard work. To understand the sheer tactical brilliance of what is happening, we have to look closely at the silent maneuvering of the Prince and Princess of Wales. William and Catherine have mastered the art of the soft power checkmate. They do not give tell-all interviews. They do not release emotional statements denying rumors. Instead, they align their schedules. They lend their presence to the right people. The revelation that Catherine, a passionate patron of rugby, could formally launch Tyndall's Amazon project is a masterclass in silent, devastating warfare. It sends a flawless, undeniable message to the global media and to the boardrooms of Hollywood. It says that the legitimate working royal family will enthusiastically support commercial media ventures, but only those rooted in community service, authenticity, and respect. By throwing their weight behind Mike Tyndall, William and Catherine are essentially starving the Sussex narrative of its last drops of royal oxygen. They are showing the world what functional, drama-free, royal-adjacent success looks like, making the endless complaints from Montecito look entirely exhausting by comparison. This silent proxy war exposes a brutal truth about the transactional nature of the entertainment industry. When Harry and Meghan first arrived in California, they were treated as untouchable commodities. They were armed with unprecedented royal secrets, and streaming platforms were willing to pay hundreds of millions of dollars just to be in their orbit. But Hollywood is a ruthlessly unsentimental ecosystem. It only protects you for as long as you are profitable. As the novelty of their royal defection wore off, the streaming giants were left with a grim realization. The Sussexes did not actually know how to build a lasting brand outside of their own personal trauma. The disastrous rollout of Meghan's lifestyle brand, coupled with the glaring emptiness of the upcoming Polo documentary, has signaled a massive shift in corporate confidence. Netflix is watching Amazon Prime move in on a much safer, much more authentic, and infinitely more likable, royal-adjacent project. Amazon is quietly securing the goodwill of the actual reigning monarch and his heir, all without having to navigate the exhausting high-maintenance demands of a couple obsessed with their own media narrative. This is where the visual contrast becomes a psychological weapon. Think back to the recent Invictus Games. The images that circulated globally were deeply unsettling for those who remembered the Foundation's original spirit. Instead of the raw emotional focus being solely on the wounded veterans, the event was heavily overshadowed by a parade of expensive designer outfits and awkward, highly orchestrated photo opportunities. The veterans, the literal heroes of the games, often felt reduced to background extras in an ongoing reality show about Meghan Markle's wardrobe. Now contrast that staggering ethical misstep with Mike Tyndall's approach to the Richmond Rugby Club. Tyndall's vision is rooted in sweat mud history and genuine camaraderie. There are no stylists hovering off camera. There is no desperate need to control the lighting or ensure the perfect angle for an Instagram post. It is the raw, unpolished reality of sport and community. And that stark contrast is precisely what makes Tyndall such a lethal threat to the Sussex brand. He doesn't have to try to be relatable, he simply is. For Prince Harry, the isolation must be staggering. He has built a new life entirely structured around the language of therapy, healing, and moving forward. Yet every commercial endeavor he and his wife pursue seems aggressively tethered to their past. They demand the deference and respect of working royalty while refusing the obligations that earn it. They have surrounded themselves with a highly paid team of public relations executives, lawyers and agents essentially building a corporate fortress in California. But inside that fortress, the reality appears deeply lonely. When you alienate your entire family, discard your oldest friends, and reduce your remaining relationships to strategic partnerships, you are left in a very precarious position. Harry traded a legacy that would have outlived him for a fleeting moment of immense commercial wealth. But as the streaming numbers drop and as the public fatigue sets in, he is slowly discovering that commercial freedom is actually a very gilded cage. You are only as valuable as your last hit show. This story resonates so deeply with the public because it is a modern-day tragedy of hubris. It is the story of a man who had everything: absolute security, global adoration, and a profound, meaningful platform, but was convinced it was not enough. He was persuaded that he was a prisoner, only to break free and willingly chain himself to the relentless, unforgiving demands of Hollywood executives and content quotas. The ultimate betrayal was not committed by the royal family or the British press, or even the streaming giants. The ultimate betrayal was self-inflicted. By abandoning the quiet dignity of service for the loud, desperate hustle of commercial content creation, Harry compromised the very essence of what made him special. Looking forward, the collision course is set. In the coming year, the world will likely witness the release of two vastly different television projects. On one side, a heavily sanitized, tightly controlled look at elite polo, executive produced by a prince who could not even be bothered to fully participate in it. On the other side, a gritty, community-driven rugby documentary, spearheaded by a man who rolls up his sleeves and does the work, fully backed by the future King and Queen of England. When that moment arrives, the contrast will not just be a television rivalry, it will be a final, undeniable verdict. It will be the moment the public officially turns the page, leaving the era of grievance behind and embracing a new, uncomplicated era of genuine royal service. Mike Tyndall is not just building a pavilion, he is inadvertently building the exact bridge that will carry the royal family away from the Sussex drama forever. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the hidden machinery of the royal public relations war. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to subscribe and leave your thoughts on where this leaves the Invictus legacy in the comments below. Until next time, stay observant.